We're on a search for one of the greatest powers ever known.
What do we do now?
We're gonna get it back.
Burnham attempts a risky mission to recover an artifact of immense power.
This is insane.
On the next exciting episode of Star Trek Discovery.
Let's do this.
Welcome, friends. We're back talking Star Trek Discovery Season 5, the fifth and final season, all the way up to the penultimate episode. This is number 9. It's entitled Lagrange Point. There will be spoilers ahead. If those aren't for you, consider this your last chance to duck out. You've been warned. Let's crack into it. This episode had a lot of heavy lifting to do in order to fling us right up to that final episode, and while I do think that most of the components in this episode worked in and of themselves, for whatever reason, I found myself a little disappointed with the overall presentation of what we were given here. It almost felt like they were trying to spin their wheels and stall a little bit, because they weren't quite ready to get us to that finish line, and especially considering this is the final season, they weren't aware of this at the time. I know. It just falls a little flat and feels a bit disappointing because I really wanted something a bit more bold and a bit more grandeur here than to just kind of pause time until we can finally get the grand reveal in next episode. Now, like I did say, the components in this episode were pretty interesting, especially a lot of the stuff going on the Breen ship, even though some of it felt a little awkward to me, but we also got to see the return of Saru and his relationship with Tarina. That, however, leads me to something that I feel we aren't going to get resolution on. In fact, there are a lot of things I'm now afraid we're not going to get resolution on. We have so many things. Just a small list of them are the wedding, the academy setup, Detmer and Owo, Raynor's storyline, the progenitor technology. That one I'm definitely sure we're getting wrapped up. Kovich, Locke and Maul's storyline, the Breen in general, those Vulcan loyalists. I could go on and on. I have to imagine at least half of those things are not going to get a satisfactory conclusion, but let's actually get into the episode because that's basically what we're here to talk about. Saru is back, I mentioned that. Also, another fantastic point, Reese is sent on the away mission.
We'll just need to add translation tech. Brain culture is rigidly hierarchical, so as long as we look the part and don't draw attention to ourselves, we shouldn't be challenged.
Granted, he doesn't have all that much to do on the away mission, but he's getting something to do substantially related to the story, at least in an ancillary way, in each and every episode of this season for the most part, so I have to imagine he's either being set up to follow along in Academy, or they just realized he's the last remaining original crew member they had and decided to actually give him some storylines, because the rest of them all jetted off. Even Owo and Detmer just kind of pieced out a few episodes ago, but I do imagine, because in this episode it was stated that they're rallying the fleet to go and try and help Discovery in this quest, they're just not going to get there in time. I'm going to go ahead and assume they show up probably on the ISS Enterprise, but who knows, some other ship next episode, so at least we get a goodbye with them, or I guess alternatively, after everything is wrapped up in the last episode, that post-credit thing they filmed after the fact is going to have them all come back and they're going to be sitting around, laughing, sharing drinks, loving each other. I don't know. I hope that's not really the whole wrap-up, is just a lot of them sitting around at a table talking. I really hope it feels a little bit more earned than that. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. We do learn one specifically important thing here, and that has to do with the secret code that Michael was given in the Mindscape last episode. We are told what it is. Before I get to that, though, it does lead me to wonder, why was that kept a secret in the last episode? It was played up like it's going to be this grand reveal, this amazing little nugget of information when it's finally revealed to us, the audience, so much so that they couldn't just show us the scene of her learning this, only for her to casually drop the information in this episode in a matter-of-fact way that doesn't really feel earned. And that actual secret is...
a phrase. Build the shape of the one between the many. That's
Cryptic?
So I have to imagine this is supposed to be a cryptic riddle, but it probably has something to do with the common genetic code or the common genetic language of the DNA or the base pairs that are incorporated throughout all of the beings in this galaxy that were seeded by the progenitors. It's going to be something along those lines to show the connection between everything, even though they're so different in disparate groups of people or something like that. I have to imagine it's going to be something along those lines, but if you have other thoughts, leave them down below. I'm definitely willing to be wrong on this. We get the progenitor technology this episode, sort of. Now, we don't actually get to see it. It's being hidden between double black holes.
All the way.
And it's in some sort of technological bucket that was created, 800 years ago during the time of the original scientists who hid this technology. So my theory about Riker coming back could potentially still hold water, even though he wasn't appearing in this episode, unless, of course, he was hidden in a Breen suit or something, but that remains to be seen. Speaking of which, the Breen that sounded familiar last episode that I thought was an undercover agent turned out to be absolutely nobody important, at least so far as was revealed in this episode. I guess we could find out next episode that was different. However, had it actually been Nan when our crew snuck aboard this episode, I have to imagine they would have met up with her. So I guess that whole fingers crossed thing is out the window as well. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. The progenitor technology was hidden in this bucket, and oops.
Cause my buggy's got a hole in it. Yeah, my buggy's got a hole in it. Well, my buggy's got a hole in it. It don't work no more.
Now, I know it was actually more of a barrel with a portal inside, but Ricky Nelson didn't sing about that, so what do you expect me to do? Another huge revelation in this episode is we finally learned why this Breen Dreadnought type of ship is so big for this exact reason right here. Okay, so all the things coming together now, all the pieces coming together. We have found the entranceway to the hidden progenitor technology. We still don't know exactly what it does. I have my thoughts, I have my theories. Thankfully, none of that was revealed in this episode, so I still have time to go do my theory video about that. But a lot of the characters are now being transported into the pocket dimension, other realm, whatever it is. So Maul goes in, Michael goes after her, a few Breen were shoved in ahead of time, so whether or not they'll all be alive or not, who's to say, but next episode, the final episode, we're going to be transported to the realm of the progenitor tech, and I'm just hoping it's not that freaking white void that Kovich is hanging around in. I could definitely see that's where they're going, and maybe they're going to reveal some grand stuff that Kovich is actually the guardian of the progenitor technology, and he's been leaking his way into our realm to kind of make sure the right people are on the quest, blah, 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 something along those lines. I have my own theories about him, but I'm not going to touch on all of them right here because that would just make this wildly too long. That's where we're headed. That's where we're going. I can't sit here and say that it was actually a bad episode. I was just hoping for a little bit more, especially with Jonathan Frakes directing, this being the penultimate episode of the entire series, and all of the grand reveals just sitting there waiting while they spun their wheels. We didn't get any real forward momentum between last episode and this episode. It was just kind of another roadblock to give us an extra episode before we get those revelations. And it might just be my preconceived notions leaking in. I was hoping for something a little bit stronger, but for what we got, it was a fun episode, and we got to spend some more time with some of the characters and get a reintroduction of Saru, all leading to this final, I'm not even sure what to call it, the series finale next episode, which is going to, I guess, make or break the whole thing. Something I felt a little bit more lenient on at the beginning of the season that's crept in is I was very, very thankful they were giving us answers right off the bat instead of mystery boxing the whole season, but they fell back into that trap and haven't given us any further information in a while, and I think that might just be a slight detriment to the overall season. Not that it's been bad at all. This is probably my favorite season of Discovery, or definitely my favorite season of Discovery, at least since they jumped into the future. Those first couple of seasons I haven't rewatched in a while. So potentially I could have warmer feelings on those in a revisit. What did you think? What do you think we're going to get in the last episode? Are you apprehensive that we're going to leave so much on the table that it doesn't feel like a wrap-up? Or do you think we're actually going to get enough closure with the reshot scenes they did after the fact? Whatever you think, leave all that down below. Like, share, subscribe, do all those fancy YouTube things. But until next time...
My buggy's got a hole in it, it don't work no more.